Welcome to our web exclusive. I'm Mike Montecalvo, along with Eyewitness News analyst Lieutenant General Reginald Centracchio. We're going to talk about a unique thing that happens, going to be a street story. We'll get to that, General, in just a bit. If you're traveling and you're traveling on Delta Airlines this week, you have agita, I guess you could say.
Big time.
There are travelers, delays all over the place. 150 flights were canceled, hundreds more delayed. That is Wednesday morning. 800 were canceled Tuesday, 1,000 Monday. So let's just talk about the scope of this right now. It is frustrated when you're at the airport and you see something like this.
It is. And that's certainly something to be frustrated about. A little while ago it was Southwest, and before that I think it was American, and now we're dealing with Delta. So consequently there's a tremendous reliance on information technology and the capability that all the airlines depend on. And when that goes down, obviously it causes other problems.
Well, the bigger picture, obviously if you're delayed, that is a problem, but let's talk about security. There is a serious risk here, right?
That's right, and it doesn't get talked about enough, in my opinion. I think what has to be realized is that not only does the airline scheduling and the flights depend upon information technology and computers and servers and so on and so forth, TSA depends upon these computers to determine that you are who you are, and who you say you are, to get on that airplane. Without that capability, TSA would be really dependent upon your showing some kind of ID and not having to verify it or vet it out with some existing system. So I think the security is dependent upon equally as much as the actual scheduling of those airlines.
So you're talking about existing security, TSA, and everything that goes with it.
Absolutely. So I think what has to be understood too is that, we think it's just a little computer perhaps, and I'm certainly not a computer geek, but absolutely that has to be understood that a server is not only unique to that particular airport. Those servers are really either tied into a satellite or a worldwide network that enables one airport across the world to know what's going on in JFK or TFG. And I think that's the complexity of it, that when some small thing goes wrong, it affects the entire world.
All right, so let's talk about that for a second. We saw a lot of the delays at the major airports. We saw it here in Providence too. But a lot of those flights go to Europe and let's say France, Italy, and whatnot. What kind of challenges does it pose for those countries?
Huge challenge. Once the aircraft leaves the ground here, it's picked up by wherever the airport it's going into. They leave one zone and go into someone else's zone. But it's the same information that's serviced by those servers as to who's on that airplane. So the airplane takes off, we'll say as an example, from Green. It's going to the Azores. It goes across the Atlantic, it lands in the Azores. Once it's left the American identification zone, it's picked up by the Azorean authorities. They need to know who's on that aircraft. And if you lose the capability as to what the manifest is on that aircraft and the ability to track it, then obviously the security is at risk.
All right, we've seen this twice now recently. What needs to happen here, basically?
I think we need to look at ways and means to not be so heavily dependent upon one network system. There may be several out there for all I know, but I do know that when one system goes down, it affects not only that airline, but the security aspects of that particular airport that services more than that one airline. So this past week we saw Delta had a problem. But the security concerns of that airport were obviously applicable to the rest of the airlines in that airport.
All right, and obviously we're going to stay on this story. It's a fluid situation. I'm going to preview what's coming up on Street Stories this Friday at 6:15 on WPRI 12. It's a story Walt Buteau is doing. General, when you buy a house, sometimes you think the house is completely cleaned out, right?
Yeah.
It's happened to all of us. You go into the attic and you never know what you're going to find. Something from World War I was found by a gentleman. Talk a little bit about that. He bought it at a flea market.
Yeah, well, the correct terminology is a footlocker, but it's referred to as a war chest. And it had his name, Lieutenant Bennett, on it, and it had the place of origin, it had where it was shipped to, and it had the insignia as the unit he belonged to, which ironically was out of Pawtucket, Rhode Island, and he belonged to the 243rd Coast Artillery during World War I. And there was some backtracking. The individual that bought it paid $5 for it at the yard sale. He contacted myself, Walt Buteau, and they did some backtracking, located the family in New York. They came down and we placed the war chest at the Providence Marine Corps of Artillery on Benefit Street. All
right, and Walt talks to the family. You can see that story this Friday at 6:15. General, as always, thank you very much, and thanks for watching.